Hello, computer science students. I wanted to go over the final project with you. So if you missed Thursday or Friday, or well, basically both, you need to watch this so you know what's going on. The final project is actually broken down into two things: your paperwork and your app. And the paperwork is split into two pieces from when you start planning to when you finish building, and then an evaluation and presentation after that. So I told you I thought it'd be less than 120 points. I was wrong. It's 120 points still. But I did cut out a lot of the paperwork for you. You don't have nearly as much to do. So the first section is called Generating Concepts. It says, what are your ideas for your personal app? 3 or more. Well, how to decide this is to think about some of the apps that you saw in class that I showed you, anything that you liked there, or anything that you built, or anything that you might be interested in building, maybe a simpler version of. Those would be things that I would look at doing for the generating concepts. Now, I'm not making you write the pros and cons for each app. That's what I cut out. One of the things I cut out that made it a lot shorter. But I'm going to be coming to each and every one of you and asking, well, why not this one? Why this one? You'll need to know and be able to discuss your pros and cons when I come by. Once you choose your idea, which is best for you, you will write that and 3 reasons you chose it. So once you choose it, then you have to design it. So what do you want your app to do? So basically you have to give, when I do something, maybe it's a click, maybe it's a shake, maybe it's voice activated. I don't know what you've got in mind. So whatever triggers it, and then what is the it? What is it supposed to do? That is your basic thing. So basically then you're going to break this down. How will your app work? So when you blank, then the product will blank. So like when I click or shake or whatever, then the product or your app, in our case, will do what? And if you don't do that, then what happens? Then on the back, since you've gotten, you got 2 sheets of paper. On the back of one of those sheets, I want you to draw what you believe the designer side of the MIT App Inventor will look like. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but, just some, kind of detail. I'll probably ask questions about it. Don't color it. It makes it kind of harder to see, to be really honest. Just leave it in a pencil sketch. What will you name your app? Every year, somebody decides when they do their presentation to basically say, Mole Mash 2. Well, I'm probably going to take off points for that. I'm not asking you on the spur of the moment. You know what I'm going to ask. So make it catchy. Use alliteration, like starting the words with the same sounds. Use a rhyme. Use a play on words. Something like that. Make me want to pick it up and play it. Then we get to the building and testing part. But before we go on to that, I'm going to tell you this. I would much rather see you go a little bit above what you think you can do when you choose this app than to choose an app right at your level or one below. This is supposed to be a challenge for you, and I'd rather see you come to a point where you have to do a little research and look around for your answer rather than to just, pick something that we've already done and maybe change a background or so. You're not going to get all your points for that. One year, I usually gave the kids 10 days. We're not going to have that, unfortunately, at least not in class. And I gave the kids 10 days, and usually they need 12. I'd ask them, and they say, I need 1 or 2 more days. And usually 12 was about all that we could stand, and then we had to move on. But I had a student one year, super talented, did really well on all of his apps. He was done in 2 days. And I asked him, I'm like, if you're really done? And he said, yep. I said, well, let me look at it. And I made some suggestions, He had taken the Mole Mash game, basically added another NBA or another image sprite, and then put NBA pictures on those sprites. There wasn't anything to it, and they just floated around. I mean, he named his app like NBA game, which didn't get him any points. But I made a bunch of suggestions. I said something like, why don't you stream a video through the middle of the game? Maybe you could give it a halftime, like with a clock. And when the clock runs out, then a band walks through or something like that. And when you hit one character, he says swish or something. Make it more toward your NBA theme. And he did nothing that I asked. He ended up getting a 70. He did nothing more than slightly modify something we'd already done. And I knew he had a lot more talent than that. And I know you guys have more talent than to do that. So, yeah, I'm expecting, something good. With that being said, I also know approximately your skill level in the class, and I will grade you accordingly. If I know that you struggled through every app, I'm going to expect you to take one of the apps that we did and probably do some adaptation. That's about all that's what I expect, that you can apply what you learned and basically model it, again. And probably the next time it'd go even better. You could do part of your own thing if you were to do it again. But that's what I'm expecting if you struggled. All I want you to do is the best you can. If you're somebody that kind of whipped through the apps, didn't have a whole lot of questions, then I'm expecting something special from you, something fresh, something you didn't already do. Some of the things that are out there and we could talk about would be like coloring books, or you could do computer science ugly sweater game or something. I got a cute idea for that. You could make a maze. You could make a scoring game. You could do a hunting game. You could do anything that you want to. Just put it up above your level a little bit. I want you to try. I want you to do a little research. I don't want this to be super easy. It's worth, a ton of your grade. So please keep that in mind when you're making a selection. So once you finally decided what you're going to do for sure, you're going to go to create a flow. You're going to create a flow chart on the back of this paper or the other paper, whichever one you didn't draw the first picture on, showing how you want your code to work. So, and think about how the procedure for the code will start, whether it's conditional. And we haven't really talked much about conditionals. We'll get into that probably a touch next week so that you guys have an example of one. Or whether your item needs to loop or restart at a certain point. Have a winner, have a loser. So it will do just a little flow chart, and it's yes or no to a question. That'd be like if, then, else. And that's basically the way it'll work. And I'll help you through these. So then you'll build your app. And that is basically the first couple sections. So this follows the planning process perfectly so far. We got 10, 19, 30. So that's 49 points. And it turns it into 79. And now we're going to go to the evaluation. 79, and then we got 99 and 119. I'm just kind enough to give you that other point so that it rounds it evenly. So after you were done with the app, now you're going to evaluate how things went. So tell me, what works as expected? So give me the things that did work on your app. What does not work as expected? Well, you built the code and it didn't work, or you couldn't find the code. It just didn't work the way you had intended. The next question is a big one. It's, what did you decide to change in the middle of the process? Probably something. It might have been little, it might have been big. One year, the kids decided to cut the pictures that they were putting in their fishing app out. So they took all the fish to Pixlr. Once they put them in, and they saw how terrible they looked with the backgrounds. So that was something they changed in the middle of the process. If you remember when I showed you that seasons game with the falling snowflakes and leaves and raindrops and sunshine and whatever else, that game was originally named Guitar Hero. So it didn't quite work out the way they had intended either. Sometimes you start working and you realize you've made a mistake. The earlier you figure it out, the better. But if you know something's not working, then you need to change it. I won't have you redo the paperwork. Usually if something goes wrong, you have something else in mind in this that you can jump to and get started. I've not really ever had anybody just sit there and then twiddle their thumbs. They came up with something else pretty quickly that they knew they could do in a reasonable amount of time. So you probably have something in here. Maybe not a lot, maybe the whole thing. Just be willing to talk, or willing and able to talk about it. So now that this is all over, what would you change and why? If you say nothing, I'm going to definitely take points off. One of my teachers always said there's no such thing as perfection. There's always room for improvement. So maybe it's something little. Maybe you find a better background for your app. Maybe you would change the speed of your image sprites. Maybe you would make some sort of cheat code to jump to different screens. Whatever it is, now that the process is over, you want to tell me what you want to change and why you think so. Now, present the solution. We're going to do something a little different. Usually I have the kids go to in front of the class and pull up the designer, and I ask them questions and they answer them. And basically it's just rolling on down these. And then the other kid then shows how the app works on the tablet, even if it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, don't have a panic attack. It's all right. Sometimes we just hit a brick wall and we can't, we can't go any further. And that's what we want to show, that that sometimes things are a fail. Sometimes we change our mind, or we don't work quickly enough and we don't get the app done. That needs to be shown too. Because maybe you chose something that was going to take too long for you, or maybe you didn't use your time as wisely as you should have. But basically, I just want you to, present the solution in a way that's not boring. So what we'll probably end up doing is a gallery walk. But you got to be able to answer people's questions. If you have any questions about this project, you can let me know.